Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they can do no wrong and have what they want. And in this episode, oh boy, a Karen decides to play a prank on everyone, guys. And she ends up regretting it so bad. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So this is a short one, but I'm still speechless that this happened. The other day, I'm shopping at a Home Bargains here in the UK. Think Walmart, with fewer aisles and more banter. A family are literally blocking an entire aisle, so I go up to them, wait patiently for them to let me pass, but they weren't moving. So I finally say, "Excuse me, please." The woman grudgingly lets me pass, and then as I step through, she goes, "Charming." She then looks up at her husband, who chirps in with a smirk, and he loudly says, "How rude are some people these days?" And at that, I got really confused. I honestly didn't think they were talking about me. So I say to her, "I did say excuse me." And that's when Karen says, "You huffed at me." And I'm thinking, huffed? I say to her, what? Maybe I breathed a little hard. I have asthma, but I didn't. Karen interrupts me and says, "No, you huffed. You couldn't wait to barge past me, and when I moved, you rolled your eyes and you huffed. You rude bitch. How dare you act like that around my kids?" The husband at this point keeps chiming in, backing her up. And I'm retreating because 1, I'm having a bad day and I can't be gaslit without anxiety attacks. And 2, they're out of the milk I wanted anyway. So as I duck into the next aisle, I hear the man and woman bitching about me loudly about entitled idiots these days, as loud as they could to everyone else in the store. Someone stacking the shelves stopped me and said, "Did that woman really just tell you off for breathing?" And that did make me relax a bit. I nod and he grins, and I suddenly see the funny side of it. I keep shopping, and now whenever I catch sight of the woman, as we're both frequent shoppers, I crack up laughing. I can't help it, honestly, but you'd better bet I made it obvious I was laughing at her. Breathing too loudly. My god. Guys, I love it when Karens try to call people out for being rude, when they themselves like 10x the rudeness. How dare you act like that around my children, you bitch? Like really, you want to call out OP for being rude and acting like that around your kids when you're just teaching them that yelling at strangers and calling them names is alright? Okay there, Karen. Alright, so this happened about 2 years ago, but I just went on a flight recently and I was reminded of it. My family had an event that we all had to go to that was across the country. A lot of my family had already flown out the week before, but I had work, and my daughter had preschool, so we stayed behind, and we were going to fly separately on the weekend. My aunt had a little girl that she couldn't bring when she went, so she asked that I bring her with me when I and my daughter flew. My aunt's daughter, Grace, was almost 2, but she was nonverbal so far, and my daughter, Ellery, was a little over 3. I was 18 at the time, and yes, I was crazy to fly with 2 toddlers alone. So since I was flying with 2 toddlers, I wanted to make sure that we had a row to ourselves. I was planning on having Ellery in the window, Grace in the middle, and me in the aisle. So I went for the slightly more expensive option of choosing pre-selected seats. We got to be in priority boarding, so we boarded before a lot of other passengers. We had checked our suitcases, so I just had my backpack with all the things I would need, like jackets, food, toys, my electronics, and a diaper bag. So with that, I had Grace strapped to my front, my backpack on my back, the diaper bag in one hand, and Ellery's hand in my other. I was saddled up. I got on the plane with no fuss from the girls, but when I got to our designated seats, yep, you guessed it, a Karen and her son, who was probably about 6 or 7, were sitting in our row. So the conversation went a little bit like this. I basically say, excuse me, these are our seats, we pre-selected them. And the Karen says, I'm sorry, honey, but it's open seating and I got here first. You can go find another seat. I tell her, no, this is my row. I pre-selected it online and I paid extra for it. I then showed her my ticket. And Karen says, honey, that's not how it works on this airline. And unaccompanied minors need to fly next to the flight attendants anyways. Me, getting exasperated and exhausted, still holding a baby in a backpack, say, "Ma'am, I'm an adult and this is my daughter. Please move or I'll need to get the flight attendant." That's when Karen tells me to go ahead, that she'll tell me the same thing. So of course, I go get a flight attendant and explain the situation and show her my ticket. Enter the flight attendant. The flight attendant says, "Ma'am, she did in fact pre-select this row, so I'm gonna need you to move to another seat." At that, Karen looks genuinely shocked and she says, "Excuse me?" The flight attendant says to her, "Please move to another seat. We have plenty." She then gestures to the back where there's literally whole rows still available. And Karen says, "No, we got here first and my son needs to sit over the wing." At that, the flight attendant looks slightly annoyed, but she keeps her customer service voice and says, "Why don't I help you find another seat? I'm sure your son will be fine." Karen argues and says, "No, I'm gonna stay in the seat because I got here first." At this point, Ellery was getting antsy standing in one place, and the flight attendant noticed, and she says, "Sweetie, why don't you take a seat right here while I sort this out? I'll bring you an apple juice in a little bit." Ellery sat down in a seat on the other side of the row, and the flight attendant says to Karen, "We're gonna have to remove you from the aircraft if you don't move to another seat." And that's when Karen finally gets up at this point, and she drags her child behind her, pushing past us. But not before she angrily says to me and the girls, "You teenagers are so darn entitled. Get a life." The flight attendant apologizes to me and helps me settle the girls and my things in our row. The flight attendant then says to me, "Wonderful job dealing, by the way. You seem like a very responsible big sister." I say to her, "Actually, the older one's my daughter, the younger one's my cousin." The flight attendant then smiles at me and says, "Then you are a very good mother. I'll get you an apple juice for the kids. Just make sure you stow it before we take off. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help you." The flight went smoothly. Holy, are some people ever entitled, guys. Calling OP the entitled one for paying for pre-selected seats and then wanting to sit in them. Like, honestly, what the heck kind of BS was that woman trying to pull here? Like, if your son wanted to sit over the wing, you should buy the seats over the wing, Karen. Like, don't try to steal and then call others entitled for wanting to sit in the seats that they paid for. Oh boy, guys, some people, I tell ya. So I'm a former police officer who's had to retire due to being badly injured. But this was one of my last calls before the incident that forced me into retirement. I worked for a small town police department with only 5 or 6 officers on duty at any given time, and we each covered a vast swath of land. My beat mainly was the rural area and the county highway that passes through the little town. One clear sunny afternoon, I'm doing speed enforcement on the highway when my radio crackles to life of a possible kidnapping in progress, and the dispatcher proceeds to provide the details of a make and model of the car, including a female driver with short blonde hair. I proceed to get onto my computer to see if there's any more details given about this, and sure enough, there is. In the call log, it provides even more details, saying that the reporting party reports that there's a young kid sitting in the hatchback part of a vehicle with a sign that says, "Help, I've been kidnapped, call 911, with their hands appeared to be tied together. Now, while the call is within our jurisdiction, they are nowhere near me, so there's nothing I could do at the moment. And besides, there's other officers and sheriff deputies who are looking for the vehicle. All is quiet for the next 10 minutes. Everyone's behaving themselves and driving the speed limits when my radio crackles to life again. I hear over the radio, we're getting another call regarding the reported kidnapping. They're now traveling south on County Highway 123. And that's when my ears perk up and my heart starts to race, as the vehicle is coming in my direction and will be here any minute. As I'm waiting for the call, dispatch gets 3 more calls from fellow drivers who have seen this young kid holding up the "Help, I've been kidnapped" sign, and they had called 911 to report it. With the stretch of highway being very flat, I'm able to see cars miles and miles away, especially if I'm using binos, and sure enough, here comes the van. And as the van passes me, I see the female driver who matches the description, and the kid is sitting up against the sidewall in the hatchback area. Now, I don't pull out right away, just in case this is an honest-to-God kidnapping. I don't want to spook the driver and get into a high-speed chase. Not to mention, I'm completely alone. And in this type of situation, you want to have a decent amount of backup, just in case they decide to run or decide to shoot it out or whatever. So I wait until she's a good mile or 2 away, and then I pull out and tail her from that distance until I can get some backup. Luckily, there's a highway patrol not too far away, and they heard my call for assistance. Just as we pass the road that leads to the highway patrol barracks, I see 4 trooper vehicles pull up behind me, so I fall back and let the troopers take the lead. Just in case this turns into a chase, they'd already be in position. While we're getting into position to stop the van, we're talking about how we're going to approach the situation. Like, are we gonna do a soft traffic stop and proceed as a regular traffic stop and just pull the driver out? Or are we going to do a full felony stop? We decided to do a full felony stop, so we spread out across all 4 lanes of traffic and we turn our lights and blip our sirens at the same time. The female driver doesn't pull over to the side of the highway in the breakdown lane, but instead, she slams on the brakes and she stops in the middle of the highway. We all position our vehicles to give us the maximum amount of coverage, just in case we're dealing with a psycho who decides to get into a gunfight. We then get out with weapons drawn while ordering the female driver out of the vehicle. Now, we should have known that something was up when as soon as she got out of the vehicle, she starts screaming, "It was an effing joke. We didn't think anyone was actually going to call 911. But hearing that, we're not too interested in what she has to say as we take these matters very seriously. The point man keeps telling her to keep walking backwards until we tell her to stop and to get down on the ground, and she complies, and that's when she's handcuffed. Next, we turn our attention to the female passenger. Now, we didn't know it at the time, but this was the female driver's 13-year-old daughter. But nonetheless, we ordered her backwards to get on the ground, and we handcuffed her too. We did this for the next 4 passengers who were riding in the 4 seats in the back of the van. Everyone was arrested. Once we got all perceived threats out of the vehicle and secured, 2 troopers went up to clear the vehicle, while another trooper and myself rescued the young boy. The young boy who happened to be bawling from the hatchback, and we put him in the back of one of our vehicles to get him away from his perceived kidnappers. The whole time, mind you, the driver and the front female passengers kept yelling, "It's a joke. He's my son. He's my brother. I can't believe you guys are arresting us." So after securing everyone in separate vehicles, we start to get to the bottom of the situation. The first person we talk to is the young boy, who has since calmed down after the female trooper got him a stuffed dinosaur, and we began to start asking him questions. This is when we learned that the whole thing was the female driver's and her daughter's sick idea of a funny prank. Since the van was full and they had nowhere for the boy to sit, they decided to put the young kid in the hatchback. They then thought it would be funny to make a sign saying, "Help, I've been kidnapped, call 911. And have the young boy hold it up while someone else in the van recorded the reaction of other drivers after they read the sign. Apparently, they've been doing it all day, and they just didn't get caught until they reached my area. After talking to the other passengers, we found out that they were all under the age of 16, and then we learned it was mainly the idea of the mother and the teenage daughter. After some discussion with the county DA on how it should be handled, we were told to kick the 4 passengers in the back loose with no charges, and to write the teenage daughter the juvenile equivalent of a ticket for inducing panic. And last but not least, we saved the best for Mom. I opened the back door of my vehicle so I could talk to the mom. As soon as I did, she starts getting out of the vehicle when I told her to stay put. The woman said, "Why? Don't you need to take the handcuffs off me so I can sign the ticket you're gonna give me?" I said to her, "It's not quite that simple. I'm afraid you're in a bit more trouble than a simple ticket, ma'am." At that, her face turned white, and I say to her, "You're actually going to be charged with several felonies. What you did wasn't a funny joke or prank or whatever you may call it." Hearing that, this is when she lost it, and she started screaming over and over again, "It was an effing joke. I can't believe that nobody in this world can take an effing joke anymore. It was a joke. Now uncuff me or I'm gonna have my husband sue you for unlawful detention." It's at that point I proceeded to read her Miranda warning. All the while she starts sobbing, with no tears I might add, while still muttering that it was an effing joke and I need to calm down. After I finished with her Miranda warning, I asked her if she was willing to talk to me. She told me to F off, so I did just that. I shut the door and let her wait for the transport vehicle. By this time, her husband and father had shown up at the scene to collect the kids and the vehicle, and was filled in on the situation. All the husband could do was shake his head and say, "This isn't the first time. She's done stupid crap like this before. It's just the first time she's been caught, and I've warned her not to do this because I knew it would end up in a situation like this." So after about 10 minutes, the transport van showed up, and it took her away. And I went back to a nice, quiet afternoon of catching the speeders. The female driver was charged with the following: 7 counts of inducing panic, all misdemeanor. 6 counts of felony child endangerment, 1 for each kid she had in the vehicle. The reason it was a felony is that her actions put her children's lives in danger by forcing us to do a felony stop over a prank/joke. And 1 count of having an unrestrained child, because she decided to put her 6-year-old son in the hatchback of the van because they didn't have any room up front. While none of those kids should have been back there, I'd rather have one of the older kids instead of the 6-year-old. But the reason why is because the other boys were too tall and wouldn't have been comfortable back there. Guys, so the post ends right there, but holy cow, was that ever insane. And seriously, some people should really think before they act. Like, how the heck did she not realize how dangerous and stupid this was? Like a kid holding up a sign that says, "Hey, your tire is flat," or "I think you ran over someone," is a prank. But my goodness, a sign that says, "Help, I'm being kidnapped, call 911. Like, what if she was driving and some good Samaritan decided to play hero and tried to run her off the road, endangering all those kids' lives? Or someone could have possibly opened fire on the vehicle to try to blow out its tires. I don't know. Guys, all I can say is she deserved what she got, and I hope the husband reconsiders this marriage because apparently it's not the first time she's done something crazy like this. So my wife and I have 2 kids, a nearly 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. We want a cruise to the Bahamas for 2, meaning my kids could not go. That's when my mom volunteers to watch the kids, and I'm thinking, great, it's all settled, we're gonna get away for a week and have some time for ourselves. As the date approaches, however, mom starts talking about having the kids at her house for the week. We told her we were under the impression that she was going to be at our house. Like, all the kids' stuff is there, their beds are there, it's significantly closer to all their doctors for emergencies, and our house is baby-proofed, where hers is not. It would only make sense. So we told her that we really felt that they should be at our house, and if that didn't work for her, we would make other arrangements. She said our house was fine, but later says that she would like to be at her house because my siblings, who still live there, could help watch the kids. These are the same siblings who were told how to be nice to toddlers, which is why they weren't invited to Thanksgiving. So with that, we leave for our trip. Though, as we were showing mom where everything was and going over food and snacks, she's more interested in playing with the kids than learning where the diapers are. So day number 1 on the boat, my wife uses the boat's internet to do a video call to check on the kids. All seems fine, but my mother tells her not to call again for the rest of the trip. And that seems a little bit suspicious. My wife doesn't tell me about that part of the conversation right away, but as soon as she does, we call her back. When she answers, she's at her house with the kids. I asked her what happened, and she tells me she was really sick and she thinks she has norovirus. And I'm thinking, what the heck? She was super nauseous. And all she could do was call her brother, who lives 5 minutes from me, to have him pack the kids in my wife's car and drive an hour and a half to her house. And I say to her, so you were so sick that you couldn't watch the kids, but you could drive home in a car that wasn't yours and endanger kids that aren't yours? In the event that you pass out or spontaneously start vomiting while on the freeway, potentially killing them? Why didn't you call the list of people who said they would come help? They had set aside parts of their weeks to come out and support with their time and money. Do they even know the kids aren't home? Do you know one person staying in a hotel to be 10 minutes from you just in case of an emergency? Now the kids are an hour and a half from home and no one's the wiser for what's happening. The first thing she says is she was really sick. Now I never accused her of not being sick. I doubted it but never said it. She then tells me how dare I judge her for her decisions, and she doesn't have to justify herself to me. And if she wants to take my kids to her house, she can take my kids to her house, and that she doesn't have to watch my kids. I then told her to pack up my kids in the car and take them home. Someone else was gonna watch them. When she dropped the kids off, she was nasty to their new caretakers and she sulked. As soon as I knew the kids were safe, I sent her a message saying that she clearly does not respect us as parents, and it doesn't matter how many kids she raised. These are ours, and she sure as hell needed to justify herself and check in with us if she was too sick to do her job. I also said to her if the roles were reversed, she would have absolutely lost her mind, and I know because I've seen it. and that she didn't need to see the kids again if she was gonna go that far out of her way to undermine us, and then act like a spoiled child to the family and friends when she gets caught. Then the next day, she replied to the message saying that she didn't realize she did anything that was that far out of expected parameters, and yes, that was her words, and that she recognized that parents had their own rules and she would have to learn ours. Never did anything resembling sorry come across in that message or any other one. She basically kidnapped our kids, and we've blocked her on social media and we haven't spoken to her since. Yeah, that mom is definitely not a trustworthy caretaker of OP's children. Like, she lied to OP about her intentions so OP would let her take the kids, and won't take responsibility for her actions when she was caught. And it's so crazy how she expects OP to see it as a simple misunderstanding and to let her off the hook so she can play grandma again. I wonder how she feels being no contact grandma now. So our daughter is a 20-year-old female, and she recently decided to go back to college after taking a year off. She dropped out of college a few months in, saying it wasn't for her. We adamantly advised against it, but she ended up moving in with her boyfriend and started working in his family's restaurant business. There was a little north of $30,000 set aside in the account for her tuition money. My wife and I had been wanting to remodel our kitchen for a while, so we decided to go ahead with that money. Well, now my daughter's decided to go back to college because it didn't work out with her boyfriend, and she doesn't like any of her jobs she had following that. Upon finding out, she was shocked that we had used her college money towards the house, even though we had this conversation before she left. She asked if she could have access to her college tuition account before she moved in with her boyfriend, to which we explicitly said no to, and said that was saved for her tuition, and only tuition, nothing else. And if she left, we would use it for something else. She said she thought we were bluffing and we didn't actually mean it, and that the money's technically hers and we need to help pay for college since we're paying for her younger brother's yearly tuition. I told her she needs to work part-time and go to a cheaper place like community college rather than a state school. She's been angry over this and ignoring her mother's phone calls. Her mother has said that maybe we could still help her out financially, but we're nearing retirement age and we're a little behind retirement goals, so I don't want to take away from our savings just because our daughter made some bad choices. I feel like I've given her good alternatives and even offered to let her stay at our house free of rent, so she could focus on paying for college. So am I the a-hole? Yeah, definitely not the a-hole here. Like, the daughter knew the consequences of not using the money for college. So what OP and his wife did was fair game. And for her to come back a year later and demand the money saying it's hers makes her the entitled a-hole. But guys, let me know what you think. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/entitled people. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I hope you didn't shake your heads too hard, guys. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode. Another one where Karens are trying to kidnap babies. Ain't that something? Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.